Welcome to another colored pencil drawing tutorial focusing on blending colored pencils. And I've already shown you different ways of blending colored pencils, including the most popular and the most widely used technique, which is the burnishing technique. So this is another option if you want to try something else aside from the burnishing. And if you haven't heard about the burnishing technique, including the last blending technique that I showed you, which is the dry technique, I have a playlist pinned on my comment section, so you might want to check that out. If you like this kind of drawing tutorial, real-time and raw, unedited, and I try so hard to explain to you the entire process the best way I can. And it's because it's in real time, so I apologize because you may hear all those noises outside my studio. But I'm sure if you watch this entire video, I'm sure that you will learn something about colored pencils, particularly about blending, because I understand, especially for colored pencil beginners, that blending can be the most difficult part of drawing, because here we are on the layering stage. I already started to layer the skin tone. I go from dark to light, and I keep my pencils sharp on this particular step, the first step, which is the blocking in of all my shadows. So I go from dark to light. So the first pencil that I use, I already started here, but this is the first pencil. This is the darkest. This is the burnt umber of the Polychromos. By the way, the colored pencils that I will use here is a combination of Faber Castell Polychromos and Prismacolor Premier. So I started with this dark umber. I use this on the very dark shadows of the nose. Okay, so again, I do it very slowly because I want to be able to help myself later on during the blending process. This is a quite simple blending technique, but I'm sure that most of you haven't tried this technique yet. Like what I said, I already explained about the burnishing and then the dry technique. You can see it pinned on my comment section, the playlist of those techniques, and this is a bit different but quite simple, and I know that it will help you to be able to, you know, somehow find it a bit easier to blend colored pencils. By the way, the paper that I use here is the Strathmore Bristol vellum surface, so it's a bit toothy, like what I said, in burnishing, sometimes the idea of burnishing is to push hard with your pencils to flatten the tooth of the paper, because we want the tooth of the paper, especially on this stage, which is the layering technique, because we want to be able to put as many layers as we can, and the paper should be able to absorb all those layers. So it's important to have papers with nice tooth or texture, especially when you are using colored pencils, because if you are using papers with minimal tooth or almost no tooth, there is nothing to grab the pigments of the pencil. And if we want to create realistic skin tone, it is very important to be able to layer many colors to be able to achieve realistic skin tone. So two to three layers will not do it. So yeah, I'm doing it really patiently, going from dark to light. So this is the dark umber, and the next pencil that I used already here is this, the Prismacolor Premier Black Cherry. So this is the black cherry. Okay, so it's a bit like purple tone. And another tip, especially for beginners, it is important to be able to establish your shadow before you even start applying brighter colors, because this step is what will make your drawing look three-dimensional, or it would look more like very realistic. We tend to sharpen Prismacolor more often compared to Polychromos, but that's okay because we need sharp point in order for us to blend well later. So this is my second pencil. This is the Prismacolor Black Cherry. The third pencil that I use here is the Polychromos Raw Umber. It's a bit brownish and greenish at the same time. So we need to always do multi-layering before we blend, because basically there's nothing to blend if we don't layer colored pencils. So again, this is a combination of Polychromos and Prismacolor. You can do it with pure Polychromos or pure Prismacolor. But sometimes I want to mix these two colored pencils together, because sometimes there are colors or there are some shades that I do not find in my Polychromos set that I can find on my Prismacolor set. So you can just use them together. But they are, in composition, they are two different kinds of colored pencils. Polychromos is oil based and Prismacolor is wax based. So again, this is the Polychromos Raw Umber. The next layer is the Prismacolor Cool Gray. Don't be afraid to use even colors that is quite unlikely to be used on skin tone, because like what I always say, draw what you see and not what you know. So I see this color, the cool gray, on the shadow here on the side of the nose, and it desaturates the color a little bit, so it becomes really nice. The shadow becomes more natural. I think after this is just the dark, we layered darker shadows or darker tones, and after this cool gray we are going to layer brighter tones to the skin tone. Right, the first brighter color that I will use is this light green of the Polychromos. So I'm just gonna layer it on top of the almost the majority of the nose to give the correct tone for the skin tone. Because if you look closely to human skin tone, you can see really nice light touch of green. Even on this highlight, I will put this light green of the Polychromos. Now we are gonna layer this Polychromos light magenta, okay, to give a little bit saturation to the skin tone, which at this point looks a little bit pale. Again, the idea is to fill up the tooth of the paper with as many layers of colors as possible, because I am showing you different ways of blending colored pencils, and if you want to try other option aside from burnishing, which has its downfall, I guess, because sometimes burnishing can consume a lot of colored pencils because you are using pressure to blend the colored pencils and to flatten the tooth of the paper. And burnishing, especially if you are using wax-based pencils, can bloom if you don't do it properly. It can have that wax bloom in it, which is a bit annoying. And then burnishing also can erase or can, because if you want to do skin tone which is very detailed, sometimes burnishing can erase all those details. So I think burnishing is perfect with smooth skin tone or plain skin tone that is not very detailed, basically like female skin tone or Asian skin tone, which is typically just smooth. And yeah, but sometimes there are reference photo, or sometimes we want something that is very detailed where we can put even the tiniest wrinkles and skin pores to it. And so if we want those kind of drawings, it's difficult to blend those kind of skin tone without erasing the details using the burnishing technique, because if you press hard to blend everything together to flatten the tooth of the paper, we lose all those details with the burnishing technique. So I'm showing you, I'm not saying that burnishing is something that you should avoid, because burnishing is a nice technique also, very bright, the coloration is perfect, you can create really nice smooth, beautifully saturated skin tone and perfectly blended and pleasing to the eyes kind of skin tone with the burnishing. But I'm showing other options, like what I said. If you want to see the burnishing and other options, I have all those techniques in a playlist pinned on my comment section if you want to see it after this video. So there are a lot of ways to blend colored pencils, and I'm showing you the less popular and but I can say very effective for me, because I've been studying colored pencils for several years already, and these are the techniques that works for me. So these techniques that I'm sharing you might work for you as well. Okay, so this is the Polychromos light magenta. Okay, the next layer is the Polychromos burnt sienna, which is concentrated right here and on the tip of the nose. By the way, I would like to thank you all for tolerating my accent and my English, and I really thank you, because now I'm not that shy anymore to do real-time raw video, raw drawing and talking video, because I realized that I can reach more people, more nationality when I try to speak in English, although I'm not really that good, but I try my best. And now thank you for understanding, because I'm not too shy anymore just a little bit. And apparently you prefer real-time raw drawing video, so that's what I decided to do for my channel, because sometimes editing video can be really hard. So this is something that is better for me and easier to do compared to time-lapse videos where I need to edit, I need to use several tools and editing techniques just to finish. But this one is easier to do. I just play the video and explain in real time everything that I do, and the colors that I use, and the blending technique that I use. So we are getting closer to the new blending technique, or should I say tool, with colored pencils. So you just hang around and see what's that I'm talking about. Second to my last layer is this Prismacolor Nectar. So it's like dark flesh, I think. As you can see, I already was able to fill up the tooth of the paper with many layers of colored pencils, which I suggest you should do before you try to blend it using any blending technique that you know or that you are comfortable. The typical blending technique is the burnishing, which is a really nice technique wherein you intentionally flatten the tooth of the paper, because we want the tooth of the paper when we layer with colored pencils, but we don't want it as in a final result. We want to hide them at the end of the drawing, the actual output. We don't want to see the tooth of the paper, because it will look unblended if the tooth of the paper is showing through, like what you see right now. You can clearly see that tooth of the paper here, but I want them at this point. I still want them because I still have a couple of colors to layer on the paper. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do multi-layering of colored pencils, and I wouldn't also be able to blend nicely when the paper has no tooth. Okay, and finally, my last pencil. This is the Prismacolor Beige. This color is the one that we used in the other technique that I showed you, which is the dry technique. And for all of you who have not seen yet that technique, the dry technique with colored pencils, I have the video on the link pinned on my comment section, so you can see it, the other blending technique that you can study and you can use on your drawings. So this one is the hero of that technique, the beige Prismacolor. So it's there. It's a playlist containing 3 videos, so you can just choose the ones that I think the title is how to blend colored pencils, I think. But these are 3 videos only, so you can just pick the video that I showed about the dry technique. Actually, this is some sort of like also a dry technique, this one. You will see towards the end of the video, but please don't skip to the end of the video, because you want to know how to establish your colors, just to establish your shadows, to layer colored pencils correctly, and the colors that I use in the layering technique that I use. So you want to start from the beginning, and if possible, if you have time, please go back to the video and finish it, because in order to for this technique to be successful, you need to follow the steps that I showed on this video. So it's important to really start the video and finish the video, especially if you are a beginner in colored pencils and you are trying to build your own style, your own technique. So this might help you, and this might work for you, all these blending techniques that I'm showing. So again, the playlist is pinned on my comment section if you want to see them and to learn from them. So this is the beige. This is going to be the last pencil to use before we try to do our blending technique that I wanna show you on this video. Okay, now this is going to be the star of this drawing tutorial, because this is the blender that I'm gonna use to be able to blend this skin tone that we layered right now. So this tool is, I got this on a makeup store for a very cheap price, but I do not know what it's called. So girls, please help me. What is this? This is made of wooden thin handle with very nice small foam-like texture, but yeah, this is a foam, but it feels different from regular foams. This is very dense and very soft, and it feels wet, although it's really dry. But there's the feeling of wetness in it, even though it's dry, and that proves that this is really compact, and it really has no pores, almost no pores at all. So you can say that this is heavy and dense, but very soft and bouncy. So I realized maybe it could really blend colored pencils well, but let us try it. let us try if this tool, although this is basically a makeup foam or makeup tool, literally a makeup tool, but I don't know what do they call this, but I guess this is for the eyeshadow. I'm not sure, so girls, please help me, what is this for and what it's exactly called. But for me, this is going to be a colored pencil blender because it has really nice solid soft texture that I feel is going to be effective in blending these colored pencil layers that we did a while ago. So hopefully this becomes really successful, although I have already a feeling that it's going to be. So I'm gonna start with my lighter section of the nose right here in the middle, because we want to avoid to make the skin tone dirty if we choose to blend the darker shadow. So I start with the lighter part. Okay, so using circular motion and applying a bit heavy pressure. The idea is to be able to preserve the tooth of the paper, because with the burnishing technique we intentionally flatten the tooth of the paper, but here we want to preserve them because we want to consume less colored pencils, we want to avoid the bloom, and we want to preserve the details, and we want to be able to layer more colors if we want, because even if we were able to hide the tooth of the paper, they are still there and we can very much add more layers of colors if we want to. So this is a hopefully going to be a good alternative to burnishing, and let's find out as we continue to blend using this makeup tool. Now I will start to blend the darker shadows. By the way, this is really cheap. I don't know if how much it costs on the more expensive stores, makeup stores, but I got this on like a thrift makeup shop. Now I'm just gonna use the Prismacolor Nectar and White to fully blend everything and to correct the tone, because we already were able to hide the tooth of the paper. Not fully hide because we don't do the burnishing, but somehow it helps in like hiding the tooth of the paper with the tool that we use, the makeup tool. Now we are ready to correct using two pencils, the Prismacolor Nectar and the White. The Nectar is for the darker shadows. So very lightly, we don't need to push heavy because we don't need to fully burnish, because we already the tool, the makeup tool, already helped us in trying to get rid of the tooth of the paper and trying to blend all the layers of colors of colored pencils. So we just very quickly, this is not going to take you a lot of time, because here we are just correcting everything. So and some parts that are not fully blended by the makeup tool will be, this pencil will do that job. So by using this Nectar on the shadows, we will not lose the darkness that we want on the shadow, because if we use white to fully blend the shadows, the color might fade, which is something that we want to avoid. So everything, the blending, the final blending becomes really easier because of the help from that makeup tool. And for the lighter part of the nose, we will be using the white. So again, this is the Nectar of the Prismacolor. The blending becomes, this final blending becomes really easy to do. It's very quick, I can say, because maybe the makeup tool has already broken down the large pigments of colored pencils. And finally, the white Prismacolor. First, we are going to make the highlights visible with this white Prismacolor, and it's really easy to highlight using white when you already have blended the skin tone. So here's the highlights, the brightest part of the nose right here, so using the white, and then with lesser pressure we are going to blend the rest of the lighter part of the skin tone or of the nose around the highlights. So you just make, well, it depends, the pressure that you are going to apply, it really depends on what you are trying to achieve, but here we want to make it a bit lighter, this part, Okay, and then the remaining part of the highlighted portion, we are going to use a little bit less pressure here. We just want to blend them really nicely. So this will not become possible without the help of that makeup tool that I used in blending or in hiding the tooth of the paper. Now at this stage, blending becomes really easy because of that tool. And then the transition between the dark shadow and the light shadow should be seamless. So using light pressure, we don't need to use heavy pressure here. Everything should be just light. And then in the middle of the nose, there is a bit like a highlight here, all the way up here. And then we go back to the lighter pressure. So this is just like correcting the blending, but that makeup tool has done most of the blending already, or has done its job of helping us to get rid or hide the tooth of the paper. And then around this highlight, we should blend to make it seem the transition should be seamless between your highlights and then your shadows. This part, this right side of the nose is a bit lighter compared to the shadow, so just use the white with minimal pressure to make it a bit lighter. Again, this blending technique or tutorial is just an option that you might want to study or to experiment with your own drawings. You can add your own style with it, or you can just choose what blending technique works well with you. So this makeup tool helped us in hiding the tooth of the paper without burnishing, without flattening it out. So the tooth of the paper is pretty much still intact under these layers of colors, but you can no longer see them, the tooth of the paper, because of this tool that we use. So this really helps in order to build this kind of really nice skin tone without using too much pencils in burnishing, without the bloom, without without spending so much time and effort in order to blend all the skin tone using the burnishing technique. So here, because the tooth of the paper is pretty much there, although you can no longer see them, you can just go on and correct some of the tones. If you feel like you need to add darker to make your shadows a bit darker, you can just go ahead, because you know that the tooth, I can feel it, I can still feel it, the tooth of the paper. So I can just go on and go back and forth with my dark pencils that I used a while ago and try to correct if I need to make some parts a little bit darker. So I can just do that even if we already blended the skin tones. So that is what's nice about this technique. We were able to preserve the tooth of the paper, but we already hide them, and it looks really nice and fully blended. So we can just go back and forth to before we finish it. We are contented with the skin tone that we did. So here I'm adding some touch of this color. This is the raw umber, to intensify a bit more the shadows here on this side of the nose. These are just the final touches because we already have blended. As you can see, the skin tone is already very nicely blended. So if you learned something, if you like this video, I hope you can subscribe to my channel, and you may check out the playlist about different blending techniques. I pinned the playlist on my comment section, so you might want to check it out. I have there the burnishing technique, the dry technique, and other techniques, so you can just go ahead and see that tutorial video after this one. So I hope that you learned something from it. Let me know what you think. I really appreciate to hear your comments on my comment section about this new drawing technique that you might want to try. So this is just an option that I show with you using colored pencils. I have many other more videos to come about colored pencils, particularly about blending colored pencils. So you can just explore and choose the right blending technique that will really work for you as an artist, as a colored pencil artist. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you on the next video.